welcome, and I won't say you're all sitting comfortably because I think you're getting as cozy as we'll permissibly allow. My name's Jackie O'Leary. I'm the MD of M1 Creative. We are a brand and communications agency. What really is key to us is actually delivering business results. We're not interested in design for design's sake. It has to work. We are driven by 3 core beliefs. 1 is we believe the medium is the message. 2, doing good is good business. And 3, brands work better from the inside out.
So I'll start off maybe just telling a bit, quick background on myself and what Chilango is all about, why we're creating this. I'm half American, half Norwegian, 0% Mexican, as you can see. I moved from Norway to the US when I was quite small and ended up in Chicago, which is actually home to the 2nd largest population of Mexicans in the US outside of LA. So I ended up growing up with a lot of Mexican friends and Mexican food and loving it. And then eventually when I left Chicago to move back to Norway, I started to miss it. And I remember sitting at a restaurant in Oslo with a bunch of my friends, a Mexican restaurant. And they're all chowing away and just absolutely loving the food. And I'm thinking in my mind, wow, this food is not even anywhere close to as good as it can be. But yet they love it. And that's kind of like when the light bulb went off. Because I thought, okay, well, why don't they, so they like it, but why don't they get that it's not as good as it can be? And it's just simply because they lack a reference point. So Chilango is not this genius idea. Chilango is more about taking something that works well in one market and applying it to another. So it's actually quite simple. Wherever you're at, a sports match, virtually any match, if you look over at the scoreboard, rarely do you see anything but 2 things. Are you winning or losing? And how much time is left? Why? Because those are the only things that matter. There's no room for individual stats there. Because who cares what the individual is doing? It's the team winning or losing. And so it's basically all about results in that sense. And then the second thing to draw from sports is how many times have we all seen, and this is the best picture of this actually, but how many times have we all seen a collection of average individuals with the right coaching run circles around a team of all-stars? So it's a combination of the purity of the talent and how well the people are working together. So that's what we mean with building a championship team. But this took forever for us to do, and we're still not there. We started 3.5 years ago, and the first 2 years were absolute chaos. We went through 16 general managers. This is for 4 restaurants. 16 general managers. Employee turnover was well over the industry average, which is generally around 200%, quite high. That's restaurant industry. Well over that. Lots of just disgruntled, people. And I'm sure Lewis, who's been here from the beginning, can,
Was I disgruntled too? Is that your answer?
But Lewis was also disgruntled with the way things were going, the way things were functioning, because we weren't functioning well as a team. But what that 2 years gave us was a lot of insight in terms of data, in terms of, well, what did work well and what didn't. And so the kind of like landmark session we had was when we all sat down and we asked the question, well, who has done well at Chilango? And we did a simple exercise where we reported down why. What was it that they did that made us promote them as high as they had gotten to? And then, inversely, we looked at, well, who didn't do well? And why did we want to eject them like a virus right out of the company? And then we took the antithesis of those things, and the things that we liked about the people that we had promoted, plus what we all individually thought deep down inside was important. And we came up with that basic thing called values that was based on 2 years of a lot of mistakes. And it really took kind of, going through all that. Because you can sit there and you can write all your values. You'll end up, if you do it, if you've never really deeply thought about it, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up coming up probably 80% of the time with a lot of textbook definition things that you would think are important. But until you ask yourself, is that how you act and behave, as an individual in a company against those things, they end up being, completely meaningless. At least that's what we experienced. So this is what we started with. And it's a low-res photo. I'm glad it's low-res because it was really shit. There's no point in making it look better than it was. I remember the first review that we got on a customer website about that, which was, wow, who opened this eyesore, an angel? And a week before, Dan and I are standing in front as the sign writers finishing Mucho Mas, each there with a beer and a microphone. And sitting there quite happy and very proud. And Mucho Mas was great, but it was it just wasn't resonating with with people. And as much as we tried, we got Mucho Mas up to 12,500 pounds a week in sales, which was just grossly inadequate for something that would be viewed as successful. And that was it. It just plateaued there. And so we knew we had to do something. So we put a pitch out to 5 different creative agencies. We selected the one that we liked most. And we said, okay, first things first, we're going to take you to our favorite place in Mexico, Mexico City, so that you can be inspired in the same way as we are. So we all hopped on the flight, and the result was Chilango. Chilango means somebody who's from Mexico City, so like a New Yorker or a Londoner. And for us, it was really important that the whole brand fit together, from its name to the feeling we had in Mexico City, and to our interpretation of what that meant, or what we wanted people to think of when they thought of Mexico City. So then Chilango opened up on Fleet Street, and we reapplied it, and we went back to Mucho Mas on Upper Street, and that's where something magical happened that made us complete converts to branding and marketing. So before this, remember Dan, I didn't describe Dan or tell you about Dan's background. Dan is graduated first in his class in mathematics from Cambridge. He, at 16, started to work at Electronic Arts on the side of school to program games, and started his first business at 21, which now employs his father. So he wasn't a branding, marketing person either. He was a very detailed computer programming, mathematics person. And I came from more of a consulting background where I hadn't touched branding and marketing either. But launched the Chilango brand, turned this into a Chilango. So same food, same people, same place. The only thing that changes is the branding and the marketing. And we get 100% uplift in sales in 4 months, which has been sustained now for 2 years. So obviously, there's branding and marketing can create a huge difference. And for us, that was about recognizing what it was that people loved about this, and kind of turning all those things on.
Excuse me. When you changed the branding, you had that massive upsurge. Did you do any other type of proactive marketing, but literally just the site?
So it was branding and marketing.
Yeah.
So we made something that just from the curb would be more appealing.
Right.
And from when you walk through the threshold would be more appealing.
Right.
And at the same time, we shouted about it.
Right, okay.
The next 3 things are kind of like mantras that we have in the company. So remember who pays the bills. So it's a really easy one to trip up new staff on. So new staff sitting around the room waiting, to hear all the greatness about Chilango. The first question that they get is, well, who do you think is going to pay your wages? And invariably, they'll always say, well, you are, or the company is. And it doesn't work that way in any business, right? It's like the person who pays the bills are the customers. So, we start with that customer-centric focus, and then we back it up, with a couple of tangible things that we do in Chilango. Like, for example, we talk about the most important meeting in the company happens every 2 weeks, and it's the customer comments meeting where each of the restaurants talks about all the feedback that they've received and goes through it and shares what actions they're taking to improve the experience the next time around. We have a thing called Surprise and Delight, where, well, it's actually the whole purpose of the reason Chilango exists, which is we say, to surprise and delight our people. But surprise and delight also happens in that same meeting, and we're asking people to share with us something that either they did specifically or that their crew did to surprise and delight their guests. And with that really customer-centric focus, we noticed magical things started to happen. You can't read this, but that's just an example of a feedback card. But it's just the feedback cards we get are ridiculous. Lots of energy. People often draw pictures. The #1 burrito wrapper award. That's a customer who was so delighted up in Meadowhall in Sheffield, one of our sites, that he made this box, wine box, and he came back and he just delivered it to one of the members of staff. Will Hunter, we did a burrito contest with the NSPCC, and Will Hunter won. We gave him a bunch of vouchers to celebrate his win, which he then passed out to a bunch of friends. And then 52 burrito dates was a result of us getting involved in Twestival, London's Twitter festival, and we contributed a year's supply of burritos to the Concern auction, or charity auction for Concern. And the guy who won said, well, I can't possibly eat all these burritos myself. So he started his own website where he takes out a new girl every week to use the local. He's at 24 now. In 2 weeks, we're having a big party. We're going to invite the first 26 girls to Chilango, to the Islington location. And so he's been contacted by the BBC. And the point of this is just that if you just focus and listen, constantly listen, we receive about 5,000 of these feedback cards. And if you constantly listen and constantly engage and get involved with the customers, magical things just start to happen without you trying to control it. So that's something that we try to instill from the very beginning. Remember who pays the bills. The next thing that we try to get people focused on is remember what they're paying for. And again, typical response will be a burrito or the chance to eat out. And it's all of those things, but none of those things. We try to get people to think about the totality of the whole experience. And the way we do it is so this is Chilango, this is the experience. And picture a triangle around that. So you're the guest, you're right in the center. And the triangle is the Chilango Holy Trinity of food, people, and place. Where food is God, but they're all important. And that's what's in the managers and the crew's control to deliver the experience. So, we can say all of that, but then we have to align our mystery shop, which we do, which comes in once a week, to evaluate people across food, people, and place, and make sure they're delivering what we define as the top 10 things in each category to deliver the Chilango experience. So that's the first point of remember what they're paying for. But the second point is that they're not paying for a static experience. They're also, anybody heard of Kaizen? It's a Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement. So when we think about, well, how do we improve the business? Well, that's easy. Constantly innovate across food, people, and place. I mean, it's easy to say, it's a lot harder to do. But it just provides for us a nice, sometimes it's about the sound bites internally to be able to repeat things over and over and over repetitiously to the point where people are going crazy, but to the point that it also provides like a really sound and understandable framework for everyone to align to and work against. So remember what they're paying for. It's a Chilango brand experience.